The court records show that the term cold gun was yelled before the actor fired the gun. But tragically, that wasn't the case. One dead, another injured. Given the current information we have, what legal repercussions can the actor face?
Well, because, as you said, cold gun was announced, it was reasonable for him to not think that there was any type of ammunition, including a blank, in the gun. If that's the case, then he wouldn't have any kind of criminal negligence, which requires some sort of recklessness. But it's interesting because the actor is also a producer of the film, and it's possible as we get more information, there may have been civil negligence involved, which only requires an unreasonableness of care. And if that's the case, it's possible he may have monetary liability. But we're really in the beginning of the investigation here.
Absolutely. Of course, a lot needs to be investigated in this. And as we understand, there are so many people involved on a movie set like that. But I was speaking with a weapons safety expert as well, who said that at least at 3 stages, checks were not done properly while the weapon was brought into the set. Second, checking if it was loaded or not. And finally, when it was handed to the actor. In this case, does it become the responsibility of an individual or of the entire production team?
It could be a responsibility in the entire production team. Again, there's this standard of care. If in a typical movie, the responsibility is allocated among different people, then did those different people do what they were supposed to do? You know, it's interesting. We know in Brandon Lee, who was shot in a similar way, the investigation found that there were quite a few people who had made mistakes, but not one person was culpable enough, so no criminal charges were filed. And it's possible that could be the case if there was smaller, fewer mistakes among a lot of people.
You know, what's interesting is some reports are also saying that earlier in October on this set, some prop guns were also discharged and they were witnessed by some people who gave statements to some other publications, etc. So, of course, a lot needs to go into this investigation about how or not they were following protocols. But let's talk about the actor in greater detail. What legal protection do you think an actor may have? I mean, do artists sign some kind of a disclaimer before they go onto a set where a film is using weapons?
You know, I'm not sure if they actually are signing something, but there is definitely a reasonable expectation that the actor's role is to rely on whatever the weapons master or whatever the director announced in terms of a cold gun or a hot gun. So in terms of his action, you know, how he used that weapon that day, from what we know so far, it seems like it would be reasonable based on how actors do conduct themselves on films.
And what about the victim's family? I mean, of course, this is a tragedy and it came out of nowhere. What legal options do you think the Hutchins really have?
Well, they have probably a really strong civil case. Again, a civil negligence has a lower standard of care. And as you said, we already know that there was an accidental discharge twice that Saturday before. There was supposedly a text notifying the production. So if all that ends up being true and maybe even more facts come out, then that seems like that could at least meet that standard of them being unreasonable in their standard of care. Again, the Brandon Lee, also their family filed a lawsuit against the movie and the director and the producers, and there was a settlement in that case.
Right, and we understand there are multiple agencies right now that are investigating this particular incident, and we all are awaiting those details. Dina Doll is a law and crime legal analyst. Dina, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
And with that, we'll shift our